Today, I will be reacting to why Jay-Z secretly hates J. Cole. Am I familiar with the entire lore? Yes, I am. Am I familiar with the fact that when Jay-Z was trying to break J. Cole as an artist, he was trying to force old industry practices on J. Cole and did not understand how to break J. Cole in the blog era and what was going on? Yes. Did that lead to a battle of creativity and proper ways to market a J. Cole that led to a lack of support that Kendrick and Drake were getting from their labels and team structure, and that they were more adaptable and flexible to allowing Drake and Kendrick to do them, that would lead to their success a lot earlier? Yes. Was J. Cole at first more commercially successful than Dot, and then Dot ended up surpassing him in credibility and maybe in terms of critically acclaim? Yes, I'm aware of that. Will I be allowing this creative or creator to be explaining his perspective? Yes, I will. Will I be interjecting when I see fit? Yes, I will. Now that you know all that, let's get into it.
For years, fans have speculated about the true nature of J. Cole and Jay-Z's relationship. On the surface, it always felt a little off. At one point, Jay even confronted Cole about lyrics that appeared to be aimed at him, proof that there was tension between them.
I did get a text from Jay at that time where he was like, "We helped you," you know what I mean? Or like, "Yo, we're not like enemies."
It always felt like part
put me in with Stargate. That shit was like the tension now. You need to get a hit first. You need to get all that rippity rap I understand that I broke. It's more so Hove the executive was different than Hove the artist, and that he was not able to be let into the industry, which it led to the creation and emergence of Rockefeller as an independent entity. So when J. Cole reached out to Jay and was like, would you essentially have done this in reasonable doubt? Did you have to go through this on reasonable doubt? And it allowed for Jay to be like, okay, hands off. If you crash and burn, you crash and burn, right? I'm not going to be the reason of it. I'm hands off now. But I'm going to let him explain.
of their story had been lost over the years, so I spent some time digging to understand what really happened. From what I found, it's clear why these two aren't very fond of each other. A lot of what you're about to see and learn you've probably never seen before. When Roc Nation launched, it wasn't designed to be a label for lyricists and underground rappers. Jay-Z had already lived through the Rockefeller era and wanted something different. Roc Nation was meant to be a home for global superstars, but the first artist they signed was J. Cole, an introspective backpack rapper.
So I'm on Roc Nation, ran by Jay-Z. That's his label, and being the first rapper over there.
He was the only rapper. I think they signed Wale for management, but I think that until this day, well, there's probably been rappers in between. I think Vic Mensa went over there for Roc Nation. There's a lot of different artists after J. Cole, but for a long time, J. Cole was the only rapper on Roc Nation. So
it's a blessing, especially knowing that, I don't even think they were intending to do rap. I think it was just, I think they were just strictly like, man, we're going to sign a bunch of like Rihanna type pop singers, And I think when he heard me, he changed his mind. Like, okay, well, I'll give it a shot.
Jay and the label knew Cole was talented, but they wanted to make sure he could cross over commercially. Cole, on the other hand, wasn't thinking about radio hits. He wanted to craft a classic debut album, something timeless.
Once I signed to Jay, and this nigga was like, nah, you're not putting the album out till you got some fucking hits.
Jay, thinking about the bigger picture, pushed him to learn to make hit records that could live on the charts. These differences in visions what began a 2-year tug-of-war between them.
This is the first time that I ever made a song and was like, yo, I'm about to go play this for Jay-Z. Like, I got it.
And he would continue to play these songs for Jay-Z, and Jay-Z would say, close but not yet. And then him and his manager Ebe would get so frustrated. They would leave dejected every time they would meet with Jay-Z. And at some point, they had to put their foot down and it was just like this. And it ended up being Workout. But the point is the fact that it's so crazy that Jay hated Workout. Jay and his team hated Workout. But they wanted to be like, I'm not going to be the reason why this kid, I'm not going to be the reason to blame why this kid fails. Basically, like, it's good enough. We're going to go with that. And even when he was promoting Workout, the radio DJs were like, this is not a hit. And I'm going to tell you why. and him going up and down and being so involved in his career, he was able to understand that, okay, this is not a hit. At first it was, who that? And he was like, all right, well, that's definitely not a hit. He got to work out. First, I think that the first denial was Can't Get Enough. And he was like, it's almost there. It's not there yet. And I think maybe before that was Higher from Friday Night Lights. Come in, let me take you higher. Right. So that all that data led to him making Power Trip from Born Sinner. So he needed all that data and all those no's to really build himself up in order to make commercially viable records and also make hip hop driven records, which he would end up tooling up that formula and that format on Forest Hills Drive. But I think that the pressure that Jay-Z and his label put on Cole is different than the pressure that he put on his Dreamville artists. So because he didn't want to do a disservice to his own artists in the way that Jay may have did him, it didn't lead a formula for urgency within his artists. They were able to coast in comfortability. And because Cole's such a stand-up person, he was still breaking bread with his artists, whether they were chart-topping success or not.
Yo, I got the one. Like, he gonna love this. Like, this is the one. So he was fucking with it, but it was not the reaction that I wanted.
Cole would bring Jay new songs, only to be told they weren't the right ones. The constant rejection left him frustrated and uncertain.
I don't have a single, and the next 6 months of my life was like literally hell. Going through a depression, trying to make it to happiness. It was uninspired music that was trying to be something.
Rumors even began circulating that Jay-Z was angry with him for taking too long to deliver a single, though Cole denied it in interviews.
You took a long time with this project.
Oh yeah.
And it came out on some blogs that Jay-Z was kind of like,
Oh
yo,
man,
what's the deal? Hurry
y'all
up.
believe that? That's not true, man.
No, not true?
That's so not true. But,
Okay, explain to the folks.
oh yeah, I mean it was a cool room.
Cole ain't hot. What? Where you read that shit? You believe that shit? Ox and Lane nigga tweet that shit? Yeah. Mr. Nice Watch.
But nah, that's furthest thing from the truth.
All right, cool.
Though he denied it, the truth is Jay was getting impatient. So impatient that he embarrassed him at an industry event in front of his peers.
In front of Drake, he said, give him a hit, yeah. He nudged him and told him, and that was the last straw. This is the straw that broke the camel's back. This is a career-defining moment for Cole.
Cole and his manager were chatting with Drake and his team when Jay walked up.
So then Jay walks in, he sees all of us together, he goes, yo, and he looks at Drake, yo, get a boy one. Like, points at Cole, like basically give him a hit. We're like, what?
Embarrassing.
But I do remember being at the dinner after that, and I'm just looking at Cole, and he looks pissed.
He was furious, but Jay didn't stop there. Later that night he doubled down, again urging Cole to bring him a single.
As I get within like 7 feet of him and he sees me approaching, he looks at me like, just one, give me one, please. He got his hand,
Doubles down.
yo, he got his hands folded.
Eventually, Jermaine couldn't hold his tongue and actually confronted Jay-Z about this.
Yo, let me ask you a question. When you was working on Reasonable Doubt, did you have somebody telling you needed a single? And he was like, nah, I didn't. I'm like, yo, so why you keep doing that to me?
Around the same time, he was saying he couldn't make a certain kind of song because his fans viewed him as the chosen one, the savior of real hip-hop. And
Jay was like, a chosen one? I know a graveyard full of the ones is the coldest quote I've ever heard anyone say in hip-hop. The coldest.
Jay-Z's reply was one of the realest things ever said. I've got a graveyard full of chosen ones. His point was simple. Talent alone isn't enough. You can't just make good rap songs for your core fans. You need to evolve and reach wider audiences, or you risk becoming irrelevant. In hindsight, Jay was right. Fans often sympathize with Cole's side of the story, the passionate artist who wanted to stay true to his sound. But Jay was trying to teach him how to be more than just a great rapper. He wanted Cole to be a complete artist. Eventually, Cole cracked the code with Workout, a song that finally got the green light. His debut album, The Sideline Story, was ready for release. But just when things seemed to be coming together, another problem would present itself.
This week, we're hosting
I think he ran into the problem,
a free.
even though I like Sideline Story, he ran into the problem that Drake ran into with Thank Me Later. And that I think a lot of people would even recognize like Take Care as like Drake's first showcasing of his sound and his ability. You even with Drake being so highly regarded in all these label wars, and everybody wanted him, and everybody thought of Drake as the next big thing, he still had to have like a proving period to where it has to materialize with the market. Like talent has to meet market to equal a permanent product. And that permanent product is a measure that like this person was worth the investment. He's going to continue to succeed over the long haul, make us a profit and make us a return on our investment ultimately. Right. So I think that he didn't figure it out until Born Sinner, and it didn't really super click until 2014 Forest Hills Drive, in my opinion.
Rolling Stone interview, he revealed he was waiting on a Jay-Z feature for a song he had specifically set aside for him. No Jay-Z verse as we sit here and talk, Cole told Rolling Stone.
I think he was supposed to be on God's Gift, or it was either God's Gift or Rise and Shine, and he chose Mr. Nice Watch.
I don't know if he's just messing with me or what, but I've already mentally prepared myself. If it doesn't happen, it's all good.
Working with Jay and everything, is he gonna be present on the album and all that?
Yes. I be doing song like the song I just did. I told you I just did.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, this the one for Jay.
Unfortunately, the verse never came. The album dropped without it, and around this time, more rumors spread that Cole was upset that Jay didn't show up for his debut, though he never admitted it publicly.
And I remember all of those stories. I remember Cole being mad because he, or maybe feeling a way about not being on his whole album. Or I remember the process. Shit, Cole told us about the process. He told us about struggling for a single.
To make things worse, the lead song Workout, the very song Jay had approved, was hated by fans and critics alike.
So I get a release date and
was hated by fans and critics alike.
So I get a release date and we dropped the single. It was the worst response on any song I've ever. You gotta understand that, like,
I do see in the bio that he updated the correction, and he said that because I was like, Jay did appear on the Sideline Story on Mr. Nice Watch. He's talking about Friday Night Lights, which was the mixtape.
to my fan base, it's like, yo, that's the chosen one. Right. So when they heard that song, it threw them off.
No one forced that on you.
No, exactly. Nobody made, let's get it clear. Nobody made me. Right. When I made that song, it was a triumph. I felt like I beat the game. It was a happy moment for me. Like, yo, watch. So when that happened, I got it. I understood why people did that, but it hurt. It was like, oh, man.
It eventually became a hit, but the backlash stuck with him. When the album dropped, the response was lukewarm. People weren't impressed, and he started to feel like maybe he compromised his vision, trying to please others. This frustration led to songs like Let Miles Down, where he reflects on disappointing his idol and his core audience. But the irony is that before the backlash, Cole had proudly told publications how confident he was in the album.
I'm gonna tell you the truth, I do feel, I'm getting that feeling. But I think what's making it a classic is that I keep setting my standards higher and higher. So like songs that was making the album 7 months ago can no longer make the album because they can't touch the new songs. I mean, I'm getting that feeling, man, but you never know until only the people decide what's classic, and only time decides that. So we'll see.
A lot of songs that end up being on Truly Yours or Any Given Sunday, or even what made the earlier mixtapes like Friday Night Lights, it was either sink or swim for him. So a lot of those maybe he couldn't get cleared, and maybe they just end up not making it. But those are some of my most favorite Cole records, or the records that didn't make his album. So if those songs would have made the album, maybe it would have been more culturally revered. But at what cost? Would it have sacrificed sales, which would have put a bigger rift between his label and, like, I don't even think he could have afforded a truly hip-hop driven album. Like, he had to be the guinea pig of rappers that were talented in rap that had to be commercially viable in order to break that mold. So not to go back and have 2020 vision. 2020 vision is everything. Not to go back and try to be a revisionist, but a lot of these things have to happen in order for you to afford the luxury to even not just do it for yourself, but to even break an artist like JID. Like, JID can do whatever he wants to do, and he is the flagship artist of Dreamville. Without Cole doing what he had to do, JID does not get the same opportunity to do what he wants to do.
When it didn't land, he started pointing fingers in his music, at his label and at Jay-Z.
When Cold Summer came out, and you know, I'm in there, I got all the lines about the label and this, that, and the third. I did get a text from Jay at that time where he was like, we helped you, you know what I mean? Or like, we only ever wanted like what was best for you, you know what I mean? Like, I think you look at us like we're adversaries, like, yo, we're not like enemies to you, you know what I mean? And I feel like my response to him was like, I'm just trying to tell my story. Like,
You try to soften the
I
blow.
always try to soften it, like in the music, and not go all the way in. You know what I mean? Like,
I can't get myself to blame Jay-Z for Cole's creative choices. The label wasn't in the studio producing his songs. He wrote and produced most of the album himself. They never forced him to change his sound. They simply wanted a single before releasing it. You can't blame others when your work doesn't hit. And you definitely can't diss your mentor because other rappers and critics weren't messing with your music. When you look at how things played out, Cole's frustration feels misplaced. The truth is, he made an album he believed in. It just didn't connect the way he hoped. Meanwhile, Kendrick dropped Good Kid, Mad City the following year, a project hailed as an instant classic and packed with hits.
Cole also lost a lot of that confidence that when he came out early on and had, that I think that Drake and Dot didn't have to. It's like a player that balls out in college, right? He gets drafted to a team that wants to change his role now. You're so used to having the green light and firing off the hip, and that, let me liken that to the hip hop artist, your creativity. You're so used to being free that when you are confined to the structure of a A&R or label that doesn't get your identity or your sound. Because let's be clear, Roc Nation did not know what to do with Cole. Cole succeeding, I'm not to say that Roc Nation didn't have no involvement with him, but if Cole had listened 100% to the label, his career would have been dead. It would have been flatline. Or at least he probably would have been a independent artist sooner than later. You know, he's a major label artist right now, but he probably would have been independent a lot sooner. He just would have been like, yo, just get me off this label. I don't think Dot had the same, at least not up until he got through Good Kid, Mad City, got through To Pimp a Butterfly, got through Damn before even having a sniff of a rift between his label. From the outside looking in, right? He had a contractual rift, which probably led to the delay between Damn and Mr. Morale and the Big Steppers. But they had an unbelievable confidence from young, from when they got into the industry, and it was only nurtured. It was only nurtured from from their labels and the critical acclaim from the writers to the audience. And then Cole was kind of the odd man out, which led to Cole making records like Middle Child and eventually figuring out his place.
Drake did the same thing with Take Care. Cole himself recently admitted on his podcast that hearing Good Kid made him realize Kendrick had done exactly what he had failed to do, to balance authenticity and mainstream appeal. As soon as I heard it, I was like, this nigga did exactly what I wanted to do a year ago. It walked the line perfectly between classic content and commercial appeal. Sonically, that shit was phenomenal. It's also important to note that Jay never wanted Cole to stop being himself. On that same podcast, Cole recalled running into Jay unexpectedly and Jay-Z telling him how much he loved Vilmatic, a deep-cut mixtape track. To me, that shows he wasn't trying to change Cole's artistry. He just wanted him to expand it. And eventually, he found the formula.
You know, we take our time and it may not be most popular with artists, you know, especially new ones that want to, I want to come out tomorrow. I think in the case of J. Cole, I think that A&R development really helped him and worked for him. You know, the album that he put out was an album that he brought in the first time and he thought he was ready, you know. And now, and you look at his career now, he's just, you know, he's going to be here for as long as he wants to do it.
Yeah.
Which is the difference between artist development and industry plant. When you get away from the industry plant claims, you get closer to raw talent, right? But raw talent does not mean you're ready. And I know industry plants, as I get older, I'm of the belief that there's no such thing as an industry plant, because you, even with all the connections in the world, if you can't deliver on a talent level, you're going to fade into obscurity anyway. So talent always has to be at the forefront, even if you have the connections to do so. And the connections can only get you so far. You have to do the work, right? So what is raw talent if raw talent doesn't produce, right? What is work ethic? I mean, what is talent without work ethic? And with work ethic comes the ebbs and flows of life in the industry. Jay just said that the album that we got wasn't the album that he came in with. And the advice that Jay knew, or Jay was like, this isn't right, He just didn't know how to tailor it for Cole. But he had the awareness enough to be like, I'm gonna let Cole do Cole. And I feel like that's the best thing he could have gave Cole. Just because I don't understand it, and you're not ready though. This is still coming out on our label. You know what I mean? I'm still involved. So whether that be good and bad, my name could be attached to something that could be effectively a part of my legacy. Like, I ruined this kid's career. That's why he was like, when Cole came in with Jay, and he told Jay, this single's gonna ruin my career. And Jay was like, I don't want that energy on my hands. Do what you want. That's cool. The people that we put you in the studio with, you don't have to choose that as your single. Don't put that on me.
Born Sinning came close, but 2014 Forest Hills Drive perfected it. A classic album that banished soul and commercial reach. You didn't hear him complain onto that because people finally appreciated the work. He was still playing the game. He just executed on a much higher level. He made the song Let Nas Down, but really the person he let down was Jay-Z. From Jay's perspective, that song probably stung. Considering Jay and Nas had one of the most infamous beef in hip-hop history, Cole writing a song about letting down Jay's former rival could easily be seen as tone-deaf or even ungrateful. For many fans, this moment cemented the idea that Jay had distanced himself. For 3 to 4 years, there were jokes online about how the two hadn't been photographed together because Jay-Z hated J. Cole.
I feel like Cole did bring him out a couple times in concert in between then. Even he said it, he addressed it on he addressed it a couple times. Knock on Wood freestyle, and he addressed it was like, ain't you rockin' with your chain yet? I guess it's something like, your girl, guess she ain't came yet, right? That's a line that he mentioned. So he's already played into the fact that, like, Cole was very adamant on doing it on his own anyways. This isn't to say that he couldn't have had more support from Jay on being on those records, but I don't think he wanted to get Memphis Bleak in that, like, you know, Memphis Bleak could be one hit away his whole career. I don't think Cole wanted that for his career. I don't think he wanted any man to be responsible for his success. So that's just my opinion.
Looking back at it, those assumptions weren't entirely wrong. The industry was talking.
What do you think of the speculation? There's always like speculation about your relationship with Jay-Z, and you know, there's no photos of you guys together. And all this crazy.
I'm just grateful for the A, for the deal, the opportunity, and B, for the advice and the real rooting for me that the people don't see.
J. Cole has a habit of subtly dissing people and then acting like everything's cool. Recently, he admitted that he actually dissed Kanye on Kanye's own song, all because of how Kanye answered a fan's question about him. During the Dark Fantasy promo run, someone asked Kanye on a live stream when he'd work with Cole.
When are you gonna work with J. Cole?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was just looking at this album cover right here, right quick. This exclusive. You know, working with J. Cole. I'm not positive. I'm like really focused on good music right now. But maybe we'll put him on a Good Friday track or something.
Personally, I don't.
Which he ended up doing. It was a fantastic look for Cole. I think Cole was mad at how his verse was mixed because it was misaligned a little bit. It was nudged too far to the right, I think, or too far to the left. The timing was off a little bit. It was still a monster verse.
I don't think there was anything wrong with how Ye responded, but Jermaine clearly felt a way about it.
If he would have said like, if it would have been like, yeah, it actually would be fire to put him on a Good Friday, it would have been a different feeling.
Or like, I'll with him. Maybe one day we could do something.
Exactly.
Like,
but it was like,
then again, Cole, you're responding in the way that you would want. Like, you can't control the response of that person, right? So like Cole's saying he would respond it as if he were asked a question, but understanding who Kanye is and the enigma of a personality that Kanye is, he gave you a Kanye rooted answer and still gave you what ended up happening. He still delivered, but I can understand what Cole's saying in the moment. Like, yeah, I ain't really like how he responded. And this is also, I'm giving Cole some grace here and shooting him some bail that he didn't have any relationship with Kanye. So he doesn't know that Kanye is Kanye, you know, in 2009, 2010, like after 10 or 15 years of data and understanding how Kanye responds, we're able to be like, this is just Kanye. This is how he responds. But I can understand. I can understand.
Like it was like it was that. Yeah. It was that tone of like, we might put him on Good Friday.
A few days later, Kanye kept his word and reached out. And that's when Jermaine took a shot. He used that moment to diss Kanye on that record. And when you look back, this isn't new behavior for him. He's dissed Drake at one point and even did the same with Kendrick. But doing it to Jay-Z, his mentor, was totally crossing the line. Years later, Cole seems to have gained perspective. He now appreciates the lessons Jay taught him.
When I first signed Jay, like, all I want to do is drop a classic. I didn't care about it. That shit could have sold 3,000. I was like, man, your first album's supposed to be slept on. And once I signed to Jay, and this nigga was like, nah, you're not putting an album out till you got some fucking hits. So then by the time Force of the Job came by, I was smacking them bitches out everywhere.
Without that push, he might never have learned how to make songs that could both move people and dominate the charts. No Role Models is 14 times platinum right now, which wouldn't have happened without the training from Roc Nation. He also has now bought back his masters from Jay-Z, and he owns his whole catalog. We love to criticize labels and executives for being predatory or out of touch. In this case, Jay-Z and Roc Nation were right. They saw J. Cole's potential even before he did, pushed him to grow beyond the backpack rapper box, and helped him build a career that balanced substance and success. It just took J. Cole a long time to realize that. And now him and Jay-Z don't have the kind of relationship they could have had if he hadn't gotten in his own way.
I actually think they do have a pretty decent relationship, all things considered. I gave you back your masters, and when it was time for a re-up, you made us so much money. You can either take this bigger advance on the next contract, or you can give. He could easily say, no, you can't get your masters, right? But he gave him back his masters. I honestly think that Hove did everything he could to make sure Cole understood that this is still a business at the end of the day, but I still respect you and your sound. Just give us a hit. Now, the ways that he went about it, he learned that that was not going to be a way to reach Cole. So he had the experience and awareness to be like, fall back. And Cole's personality is also one to be like, I'm going to fall back. So I just think that their relationship, I can't picture it going any better with those personalities and with Hove's experience in wanting to do things a certain way as a label executive, and Cole being a newcomer and not understanding exactly how different Jay was as an executive as he was as a independent artist who started with Rockefeller and Reasonable Doubt. And there's no way he could have understood that without going through that, without him having Jay as his boss. But I think it led to fruitful results, in my opinion. But you can let me know in the comment box down below if you're still here. See you later. As always, I'll be safe. Shwee!